Nothing. It's great to be here. It's 4.5 minutes in. I haven't said a word yet, so just waiting on you. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. A lot of information to disseminate. No, I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time since we've done an AMA. Somebody who I know very well put in the chat already that I'm missing the Met game for this, and that is true. Normally I'd have it up on the wall here, but I don't want to be distracted. So no spoilers during the. But this is how much I love the community. I'm missing the Mets right now to hang with you guys. But really, honestly, we have a lot of stuff to go over today, a lot of ground. I know a lot of questions have been submitted already. We'll do as much as we can and cover as much ground as we can. Amanda will do a phenomenal job, I am sure, capturing all the questions, and we'll get to as many as we can. And feel free to jump in. Just keep in mind, I can see the chat, but I won't be able to follow it that closely. But feel free to jump, throw questions in there, throw comments in there, and everything like that, because I will be able to catch up with it at some point. And Kyle, you should be happy you're missing the Braves game. Well, I mean, if they're all controlled by Wall Street and you're going to measure the top, then it's certainly Netflix, and I think you can measure that by viewers and subscribers as well. I mean, clearly they're the kings of the hill at the moment. As far as who's buying what and what's going on, Netflix is certainly buying at the moment. Max has had their moments. They're kind of limping back into buying on the television side. The film side is doing well. Apple is obviously doing it, extremely well with Severance being a sort of leader into other shows. I mean, they have other tremendous programming at Apple, in my opinion. I mean, I think the prestige, as far as prestige TV is concerned, I think they're not only leading the field. I think they've lapped it over the last couple of years, and now people are just discovering that. And then, Paramount has expanded out a little bit beyond the Taylor Sheridan business, So, look, I think what we've seen, the film market is rising again. We know that. The television market is a little bit slower back from the strikes and everything else that's gone on. But it's to me, it's as exciting of a time as we've had probably in 4 or 5 years. So, the streamers they're all buying, they're all out there, they're all doing it. And as far as, did you ask about consolidation? Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Look, I mean, I think you're going to have more M&A. I think you're going to have more branching off of brands and splintering of various streamers that are underneath umbrellas, Discovery, things like that. It's going to be ripe. It's probably going to take a little bit of time. Probably take about another six to 12 months if I'm being really aggressive. Probably 12 to 24. A little bit on the conservative side. That's my feeling and what I'm hearing out there. Quite honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think his greater point is that we want to return to theatrical, right? Nora had, a theatrical run, and it paid off for Neom, and you're seeing more and more people push for theatrical. The 45-day window that, certain studios have adapted, others I think are going to follow suit. I think 45 days isn't enough. I think we're going to go to, if we prove it 45, we'll get back to 60. If we prove it 60, maybe we'll get back to 90 again. And I think that's really where the sweet spot is. It might not be everybody, but it'll be more than it is right now. And I think that was his greater point is that filmmakers right now are fighting for their territory. And I love it. You're seeing more and more filmmakers trying to control things further down the line than before, not waiting for permission, not surrendering to the status quo. And I think Honora was a perfect example of that. And certainly it paid off by having theatrical. So yeah, I think you're going to see more and more filmmakers and more producers pushing for theatrical as opposed to being a slave to the algorithm on the streamers. Yeah, it is. And, that's where you're seeing it on the streamer side. You're seeing a little bit more of an appetite for a greater amount of projects being put into production in that price range. So more films at smaller budgets. Now, that's not across the board. The studios right now, a lot of people are getting raked over the coals. There's been profiles of studio heads right now that are overspending on what amount to, I wouldn't say art house films, but auteur films that are from great directors that are have done great things, but are really expensive and need to make just a shit ton of money to break even. And I think that as there's been a few failures this year. I'm not going to name names, but there's been a few failures this year with big budget films that were not necessarily tentpole type movies that have harmed some studios. So I think that there's going to be more of an appetite for, let's spread it out a little bit, let's go a little bit lower budget, let's make more, and let's appeal to more audiences. And I think that's the battle cry that's out there right now. So yeah, I think you're going to see more in that price range and maybe even lower. Hmm. Oh, okay. Sure. So some people are saying they can't hear the questions. If you can hear Amanda, hit it into the text box. But if you can, I will repeat the questions as we move along. Oh, some people could say I could hear. People are saying I could hear you, but I'll do my best. I mean, this is the $1 million question, right? This is the question everybody wants to know, and this is where there's so much fear rooted in this. I've talked about this quite a bit. I put posts up on Instagram and videos on Instagram and videos up on Stage 32 of my coffee and content on Sundays. Um, Look, for screenwriters, it's a tool for research. I think as a tool for writing, it's awful. I did an experiment the other day with dialogue with AI, and it was just fucking horrendous. But for brainstorming, it's fantastic. It's like using any other search engine to me. Doing research and everything like that as a writer. For coverage, it's absolute garbage. If you're using any sort of AI service for coverage or putting your own scripts into AI for coverage, I would highly suggest that you do not do that, because I've done it, and it's not whether it's liked or not liked. It's the understanding of what various aspects and how a screenplay is structured that it can't get right. And because of that, it's just a terrible feedback loop for coverage. It's just terrible. On as it relates to the rest of filmmaking, clearly there is a push to make filmmaking less expensive, and where can AI fall into that? Time will tell. Clearly, there are copyright issues and protections that are going to need to be, ironed out, and they will. They certainly will. All it will take is one big lawsuit, and that'll happen. And I think there's a lot of people that have an initiative to regulate. I think the big place where it's going to have the biggest impact is in post production, and I think we're seeing that already. And that's part of making the filmmaking process less expensive. So on the post production side, I think that's where it's going to hit most people first. But I don't think it's going to be a replacement for writing scripts and for coverage and acting and all that. I don't see it. I really don't, especially not yet. And I do think that you'll see protections and laws coming into play that will put guardrails in place. Yeah, sorry. That one I think should be obvious. That was the question about where I see AI going in the industry. Yeah, look, I mean, YouTube, well, owns 40. They had the question was, do I think that YouTube is going to take a bigger piece of the market and present challenges in any way? I don't. I don't think it's a challenge thing. I think it's an adaptation thing, right? It's 40% of the audience is on YouTube, streaming wise. Um, Obviously, the young generation loves YouTube, and they watch that more than they watch Netflix, and they watch it more than they watch Max and everything like that. So this is an adapt or die type thing. You could use it as a tool, certainly. People I've seen do things like put trailers up in an effective way by building an audience and building an audience, crowdsourcing an audience before a film gets made. That's one logical step. I've seen people put out content out there, behind the scenes content, if they're crowdfunding, that has worked very effectively. But again, it all comes out to building an audience, right? It all comes down to building that audience. You just can't post things and expect people to come. This is not social media and streaming and everything like that. It's not an if you build it, they will come situation. It's really about, like, how do you handle your brand? How do you handle the brand of your company? How do you build an audience? How do you build authenticity, loyalty? All of those things come into play. So I don't think it's going to be, if you're asking me if it's going to be disruptive, it's already disruptive. It's been disruptive, right? It's the question is what are you going to do about it to utilize a tool? Because that's what it is. It's another tool, right? So you can't use every tool, but you got to pick the ones that you want to use and the ones that are going to be most effective for you, your brand, and what you're looking to accomplish in the biz. Do I think that there is, say it again? Do I think that there's, is there a crossover between influencer culture and film culture? I think that they're two totally different things, and I think that if it was a Venn diagram, there'd be a little crossover, and I think that crossover comes from the fact that strategically there are times where people will use influencers for their projects to broaden their audience. I'll use a wide scale example of that. I'll use season 3 of White Lotus, where they use Lisa, who's a K-pop sensation and throughout Asia, and has a massive Instagram following and social media, TikTok following, and put her in the show to broaden the appeal of White Lotus throughout Asia. Paid off tremendously. The response there was awesome. But you'll notice that they didn't put her in the lead. She didn't have a ton of scenes in the show. She didn't have a ton to do with the plot of the show, what the plot there was. And, but there was, but that was a strategic play to build an audience. You see it a lot with independent films, especially with low budget independent films, where the idea is that, we need to make our money back, and we need to be able to make our money back. We need to grow an audience for this film. We want to create an audience for the film before the film is released, create awareness for it. Sometimes, influencers will be used, to act in the film, be a part of the film. But you don't see it on the bigger scale as much as you would think, right? You're not seeing big, gigantic feature films or even large independents using influencers per se as leads in films. They might be involved in some fashion. They might play a supporting part or whatever. So I think that's your crossover in that Venn diagram. But I don't think we're going to go much beyond. I mean, you might get that one person that's just an incredible influencer star that, is able to cross over in a bigger way. I mean, you'll get them. But from a strategic standpoint, I don't see a large advantage over what I just, spoke about. Mm-hmm. So the question was physical productions have gone down significantly in California and in LA especially. We know that for years and years and years. Where do I think the tax incentive talk is going to land? Well, I mean, look, the sad news about this whole entire thing is, like, it's the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? So many people have left LA and are filming elsewhere. Incentives, states and countries have taken advantage of LA kind of playing with the lead for a while, and then, you know, just pure hubris, not protecting that lead, I guess, and turning a blind eye to what was going on. And now you have these unbelievable incentives happening all over the world, and what's happening is productions are moving everywhere else but LA. It's expensive to shoot here. It's hard to get permits. The application process for incentives is brutal and takes forever. These are all things they're trying to solve over the next couple of weeks, and they're hoping to pass. And they're looking to broaden the incentives, but ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a lot of problems to solve. And one of the big ones is that the thing it's not addressing, I think, in a lot of ways, the people who have suffered the most through these strikes and through COVID and through everything leaving LA, which is which are the crews. I mean, the crews are the ones that have gotten screwed the most. And there's a big push with these new incentives to include a post-production aspect to the rebate. And that's probably not going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Because you get it in other places, and it's cheaper in other places. So they have a lot to do here. It's a tall mountain to climb, and hopefully they will pass something that at least brings some some projects back here, which will of course bring jobs back here. But I don't think that's going to prevent people, especially independent filmmakers, from looking elsewhere and trying to get the best deal possible and the best bang for their buck possible, and to save money wherever they can, which is paramount to having a profitable picture. A few things, but I will start with the fact that it was cheaper, and you got. Oh, sorry. I was just the question was, we got to see if we can fix that because I'm not going to remember this every time. But the question was, I just recently produced films in Costa Rica and in Colombia. What went into the thinking behind that, or why did we shoot there? One was certainly the price tag and the incentives and the ability to get a tremendous rebate. So that played into it quite a bit. We also had, the writers and some of the actors were from those regions, from those areas. It made a lot of sense to be there. We had support from the commissions as far as crews were concerned. That helped. So it really, quite frankly, if I had to answer that in one sentence, it was easier. And it was, it was easier and it was cheaper. And it just made all the sense in the world. So that might have been 2 or 3 sentences, but you get the gist. Do I think the incentives as proposed right now are going to pass? I believe that I feel pretty confident that they're going to. They've passed quite a few hurdles. There's a massive, groundswell of support for it. The only thing is you have a lot of people, in government right now in California that feel that it doesn't stimulate the economy in the way that it's intended. And if that's the case, then, there might be some pushback, but they have to do something. I mean, they have to do something. And then it just becomes a matter of, is this a matter of the haves getting more and the have-nots not getting any? Or is this, the type of situation where, a lot of people are going to benefit, and where it's going to be, most importantly, if it's going to be competitive. So that's really what it's going to come down to. Can we just do something really quick here, and I'm just going to ask if you could put in the chat, can you hear Amanda or can you not hear Amanda? Okay, some people are saying no. Okay, cool. All right, good deal. I will do my best here. That's weird that some can and some can't. That's very bizarre. So what's going on really quickly? So if you joined us late, you probably cannot, some of you cannot hear Amanda. She's moderating. Some can hear Amanda. I don't know why that is. It seems to be a Riverside problem, but I will do my best to repeat the questions so that you understand what the hell I'm talking about when I'm answering them. Well, now I can't hear you. Now I can't hear you. Let's just let's just let's just do it this way, and I'll repeat the questions. Well, I wouldn't be worried about. Okay, so the question was, go ahead, I'm sorry. The question was, how can international people use Stage 32 to break into the U.S. market and to work with co-country productions? I think the answer to that question is to treat the world as being wide open. Okay. Amanda, maybe what you could do is mute while I'm responding because I'm getting a lot of I'm getting a lot of. There you go. Beautiful. Now we're talking. Okay, so how to use Stage 32 to break into the U.S. as a filmmaker or a screenwriter or for co-country productions? I think the answer to the question is within the question, which is you shouldn't be worried about breaking into the U.S. You should be thinking about the world. You should be thinking about one entity right now, because really what's happening in the U.S. is that most U.S. producers are looking international. They're looking for opportunities internationally for co-country productions. Europe, South Africa, India, Saudi Arabia. They're all making a massive push to attract U.S. productions, right? Then you have states within the U.S. You have obviously Georgia. You have Tennessee, that's state, and Hawaii has spent a lot of money. Pittsburgh has spent a lot. Connecticut. I mean, you name it. I mean, we hear from these people, from film commissioners every day when it comes to Stage 32 certification, because we work with so many of these film commissions. We don't hear from LA, okay? We hear from every place else, right? And they're taking advantage of this opportunity. So what I would say is, one, like I say with everything else, man, you got to treat networking like a job. You got to be working on relationship building and networking every day. And no connection is a bad connection. If you want to break in internationally, you need to be talking to international producers, international financiers, international filmmakers. They're all over the platform. In fact, our international membership, I mean, about 2 years ago, the membership of Stage 32 was probably 70-30 US to the rest of the world, and now it's probably 55-45. And it just keeps continuing to climb. That's because there's filmmaking and television happening all over the world. So one is to treat networking like a job. Two is to educate yourself constantly on what's going on, which means you got to be reading the trades. You got to be taking Stage 32 education when we offer even these free things that we offer as far as the global market. We do a lot of things with Stage 32 certification where we bring in film commissions. Those are all free. You should be attending those to listen to the opportunities. You got to keep your ear to the ground. You got to be attentive every day because the ground is shifting under our feet, right? I can't wait to get to CAN in a couple of weeks because I'm going to be hearing about all these opportunities. I'm going to be hearing about where people are going. And I can guarantee you that 90% of the conversations I will have with U.S. producers, U.S. distributors, U.S. sales agents, so on and so forth, they're going to be talking to me about international. Guaranteed. Okay, and if they're not talking to me about international, they're going to be talking to me about, like I said, Georgia, Illinois, Tennessee, Connecticut, Pittsburgh, Hawaii. That's what we're going to hear. So you got to be in it. You got to be making your connections, building your relationships, your network. I hate this freaking phrase, but I love it at the same time. Your network is your net worth. There's a truth in that, okay? You got to have the connections, you got to have the champions, and you got to be in the know. That's really the formula for everything, quite frankly, quite honestly. That's how we got involved with the Costa Rica project. How I got involved with the Colombia project. It's just ear to the ground, talking to people, figuring out what's going on, and figuring where the greatest opportunities are, and figuring out where we can make this project for the least amount of money to give ourselves the best chance of profit so that we can go make another one. That's really the goal. That's it. Okay, so the question was, how do I feel about Robert Rodriguez and Eli Roth? Amanda, show your mic. Amanda, thank you. How do I feel about Eli Roth and Robert Rodriguez crowdfunding and crowdsourcing for their films and giving profit participation to their fans? And is this cheating? It's not cheating. It's all fair game, right? These are two more filmmakers. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but these are two more filmmakers that are controlling what they can control as far down the pipeline as they can and not asking for permission. Now, people might say, oh, God, Robert Rodriguez and Eli Roth, they can get anything done. They can walk into any... No, they can't. No, they can't. Not in this day and age, and no, they can't, okay? I mean, there's a lot of shit that they have to fight through. Everybody has to fight through it. I don't care what level you're at. You're fighting and you're pushing through it all, right? So what they're saying is, look, let's control the pipeline. Let's control the investment part of it. Let's control everything through the filmmaking process as far as we can, and then decide whether we even want to bring in sort of that institutional crap that we have to go through for distribution and sales and all this other stuff, or if we want to self-distribute or do something else or lean into something else, right? That's not cheating. And the other thing is that it's giving people an opportunity to invest in films and invest in filmmakers at sort of a ground level where they're getting profit participation, which is not a bad thing. At a higher level, you get to be a producer, which is not a bad thing. I think that this is the world we're living in right now. Try to control as much of the pipeline as you can, as far down, or control as much of the project as far down the pipeline as you can, and don't relinquish control, and more importantly, for Christ's sake, don't wait for permission, right? Don't wait for permission. And that's what they're doing. They're not waiting for permission, not waiting for a studio head or an A24 or whatever to say, yeah, we want that. They're saying, we're gonna go do it. And I think that there's something rebellious in that we used to see in the independent space, which I like. There's something, sort of, they're being mavericks in their own way, and more power to them. And I think that's a rising tide lifts all boats situation. So the question was with the younger, Mike. The question was with the younger generation was basically a short form content gonna fly? Was Quibi a little bit too early? Was the Quibi platform a little bit too early? I don't think it was too early. I think it was an example of ego and hubris and ridiculous bloat. They spent an insane amount of money on talent with an unproven model. Um, didn't probably vet whether that talent was talent that people really wanted to watch short form content from. It was definitely a cart ahead of the horse endeavor. I don't think it had a prayer to succeed. And, I think if they could go back and do it all over again, they would do it a different way if they would do it at all. Having said that, I do think that there is certainly an audience for short form narrative content, whether it's in the form of podcasts, whether it's in the form of mini episodes of a bigger episode, whether it's proof of concept towards something bigger. I certainly believe that that's there. Now, will that fall into one single platform? I don't know. Will there be another Quibi? I don't know. Will other platforms, existing platforms, adapt that? I think you're already seeing it. So, that doesn't mean that you tailor your content for that. You have to decide what you want to do, right? You have to figure out what's my end goal here. You know what I mean? If you're making a short film as a proof of concept towards a feature film, then that lane has been driven a million times, and the roadmap is there for how to do it, right? The blueprint's out there, right? It's just, you got to decide what's best for you and what you think is going to attract the audience that is going to allow you to move on to the next thing. And that means you got to pick the right platform, you got to pick the right format, you got to pick the right medium, you got to play into all that. So, you got to educate yourself and decide ultimately where you want to be. But more importantly, it's, how you can get the eyeballs on it, because that's really the only thing that truly matters. Is Disney looking for material? That was the question. Look, I mean, you're not walking into Disney. You know what I mean? Somebody has to walk you into Disney, or you have to work with an executive that has a deal with Disney. Um, you know, are they buying stuff? Of course they are. You know what I mean? Are they leaning into their library? Of course they are. You know, are they going to have to find new ways? I mean, now they've announced that they're not going to do any more live action of their old, cartoons based off of the failure of Snow White. Again, the sea is always churning, right? It's the things change all the time. So yeah, they're buying, but I mean, you got to be able to get to the right person to walk you in, or to pitch to the right executive that has a deal there, and have that person walk you in. That's the the easiest way, or I shouldn't say the easiest way, but that's the path. Well, I mean, look, okay, you gotta show your mic, Brenda. Thank you. So, what are the three features on Stage 32 that will allow you to get with executives and get you, moving along? Look, there's paid and free, right? And it's the same with any platform, anywhere, anytime, or anything in the world. So, for me as a writer and a producer, I have my free things that I do, and I have my paid things that I do. Less now that I've kind of, I've been able to reach a level of success where I can call on people now, where I have the contacts. But certainly when I was breaking in, especially as a writer, I had a free strategy and then I had my paid strategy. My free strategy was always, and it still is to this day, to work Stage 32 every day for at least an hour on the networking side, building relationships and so on and so forth. I do it on some other platforms as well, not as robustly, because I feel like on most of the broad-based social media platforms, people are not really there to make connections. They're there more to, especially lately, bitch and moan. And quite frankly, a lot of the upper echelon people that are doing it right now, the people that are in the trenches, have left those platforms because they're tired of being beat up because they're giving away great advice and everybody's telling them they're wrong. So a lot of people, I know a ton of executives that have left broad-based social media because they just feel like it's a losing proposition. Why should they be there if they're going to get beat up for offering the truth, right? So the first thing is definitely networking. That's something that you do for free. The second thing is, of course, attending all the free education, the free open houses that we offer, all these opportunities to get in front of executives. We do a lot of free stuff on this platform to give you access, and that's another thing that a lot of people, many people take advantage of, and a lot of people don't. If you're not, you should be. And then the third was always my third bucket was when I was paying for something, I would set aside, I've told this story before, but I set aside sort of my RB fund for breaking in on the screenwriting side. And that RB fund wasn't a ton of money. It was a small amount of money, but it was money that I would only spend for access. I would only buy things or do things that would get me access to decision makers that can make a difference in my life and in my career, right? So, consultation calls I did all the time, coverage from executives to get full transparency mattered to me. I wanted to know that the person that was reading my script wasn't somebody that was either less talented or less experienced than me. I wanted to pick that person because maybe that person would want to make the thing, right? And I had that happen. Or I got a paid option off of a consultation call where I, presented one of my scripts and we talked through it, and it led to another call, and which wasn't paid. It led to another call that they had with me with their bosses and everything like that, and they ended up paying for the script. It was just direct. It was like walking into their building. It was like walking into their offices. So that to me, those are the two paths. The two paths are, it's relationships for sure. This business runs on relationships. And then the second thing is, if you're gonna put money on the table, put it towards access or education. That's the other thing I always paid for, was education. If anything, like, learning how to become a producer, and, I did it on set, but there was still a million things that I wanted to know. I wanted to understand everybody's job on that set. So I took, Stage 32 education to learn things, and I still do. I've taken the AI ones just to learn about it for brainstorming and stuff like that, because I think it's great, and I want to know, I want to have that knowledge. Anything that gives me a competitive advantage, I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to outwork the next person. That's just not negotiable, right? So it's a mindset, and so I would just say networking, and if you're going to put money on the table, put it towards education and access. Wow. Okay, wow. So the question is, this was somebody who got attacked on X, formerly Twitter, by the writing community because she said that she doesn't write every day, and she was told, therefore, she is not a writer. Okay, well, one, there is more toxicity on these broad-based platforms now for creatives and artists. I don't care if you're a writer, an actor, a filmmaker, a producer, it doesn't matter. There's just so much toxicity, and people, the biggest problem with it, of course, is that people hide behind fake names. They hide behind aliases, so you have no idea who you're talking to. You have no idea what their skill level is. You have no idea what they've accomplished in their lives. You know nothing. You're just talking to a stranger And it's even worse than talking to a stranger because you can't even see their face, right? You're just listening to the bullshit that they're spewing out there. So the idea that you would be attacked by the Twitter mob or the X mob over the fact that you're not writing every day and you're not a writer is absolute garbage. And shake it off, wash it off, shower it off, because it's ridiculous and it's harmful. And I hate hearing it. Look, I don't write every day, but I'm thinking about stories every day. I'm putting notes down every day. I'm in the middle of cracking a script right now, a new feature that I want to write. And, I'm not close to writing Fade In yet, okay? I'm sitting there, day after day. It could be I'm freaking working out and an idea comes to me, write it down. I'm taking a shower, idea comes to me, write it down, right? I'm in that phase. That's writing, okay? I'm also doing research on the subject matter that I want to write on. That's writing. Okay, and it doesn't matter if I do it at like midnight. I'm like, oh yeah, I just had an idea. Like, what would happen if? And I do some, Googling or AIing or whatever, to ChatGPT and to do some research. That's writing. Okay, that's creating. So the writing process isn't just sitting down and spitting out 7 pages of garbage that you're going to tear up just because you could tell everybody on Twitter that you wrote today. Like I got words down today. Who gives a shit, right? Who gives a shit? If it's garbage, it's garbage. Not to say that doesn't happen with a regular writing session. God knows I've sat down with intent and turned out 7 shitty pages that I went like this. I mean, it happens, but you learn from it, and that's great. I don't mind that, okay? But I'm not going to sit here and be bullied by anybody, and neither should you, and neither should anybody, by anonymous people on broad-based social media who, are wallowing in this sea of misery, and they want to, put it on top of you. Like I say, misery loves company, but it doesn't have to be your company. So what people were saying was that they could hear me on a laptop, but they can't hear, and they could hear you on a phone, but not vice versa. I don't know if that helps you troubleshoot it, but we'll keep going. Well, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We're gonna. I don't know if Riverside is publicly traded, but sell the stock. Yeah. And you want me to repeat that? First of all, shut your mic. you shut your mic. She wants me to repeat. It was like a 70. As you saw, for the people that can't hear her, I was nodding for about 70 seconds. I'll give the gist of it. The question was that Ryan Coogler made a deal with Sinners to where the rights revert back to him after, I believe, 25 or 30 years, might be 30, or maybe 25. It doesn't matter, but the rights revert back to him. And the second part of the question was, somebody commented on this post. This was a post on LinkedIn, that all these studios are going to become sort of venture capital run, where they invest in creators and so on. And do I agree with that theory? Let's take that one first. Do I agree with the theory that studios are eventually going to be venture run and sort of investing in creators? Look, anything could happen. I mean, what would they need the studios for in a lot of ways? Couldn't they raise their own money and do it on their own? There's I could, if you gave me 5 minutes, I could probably poke 100 holes in it. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be some sort of creativity, that there's not some sort of truth within that. And that's the beauty of the business right now. And that's the beauty of the business when everybody thinks it's down and everybody thinks like, oh God, it's gloom and doom and everything like that. Something new pops up. In the 80s, it was the studio system is this and blah, 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 blah. We're going, it's dead, movies are dead. And all of a sudden, the independent movement blew up in the 90s, right? Who's to say that's not coming back right now? There's some indications that might be coming back right now in a different form, right? So to the first part of it, I don't know where that's going to go. It's an interesting theory and an interesting proposal. But again, I think if you gave me 5 minutes and gave people smarter than me 2 minutes, they could probably poke 1,000 holes in it. So that's the first part. The second part is, what do I think of the deal? Look, I mean, I think he made a smart deal for himself. I know there were a lot of studio heads that passed on the film simply because of that, and they feel like this is Pandora's box. Tarantino made a similar move with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a few years ago. For 20 years, I believe it reverts back to him. There wasn't the same uproar that there is right now. Everybody's crazy. I blame it on social media again because I think people just take a freaking nugget. They take one string of the entire sweater and pull it, and don't look at the entire thing. And it's a smart move by him. Do I think that everybody's going to get that deal moving forward? No, I don't. Do I think that certain auteurs will get a deal like that? Maybe. Do I think that it opens up a can of worms? I don't think it opens a can of worms. I think it opens a conversation, and I think it opens opportunity, and I think it opens discussion, and I think it's artists protecting themselves. And there's a million things to like about it in a lot of ways, and there's a million things that could come from it, and that's the way I choose to look at things. It's not good or bad. I look at them as an evolution, and that's the way we need to be looking at everything right now. You have three choices right now. One, be gloom and doom and listen to all the naysayers that don't know anything. Two, listen to the people that are actually doing it in the trenches right now and are being the rebels and the mavericks. And three, choose to educate yourself without listening to everybody else, without listening to the gloom and doom people. Like, form your own opinion, do your own research, and do your own education. If you do those latter two things, you'll have a competitive advantage over all these people that spend 900 hours a day bitching and moaning about every single freaking thing in the world and spending their lives on platforms like X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth, and not actually creating or making anything or doing anything positive for themselves. So you can imagine what I choose to do. As for me and my house, we will serve wine, sip 24/7. If you don't know me, I'm a wine lover, as you could. These are just two of my many fridges. Okay. Do short films still matter? Yeah, they matter tremendously, but again, everything needs to be framed. Do they matter to, what are you trying to do with it, right? Do short films still matter as a proof of concept for a bigger film? Absolutely. Do they still matter as proof of you as a filmmaker, or even, to a lesser extent, a screenwriter, if you're a screenwriter filmmaker? Absolutely. It's a calling card. It goes to show that you have an artistic eye, that you could put something together, all of it, okay? Does it matter for film festivals and things like that? Certainly, certain ones, yeah, man. If you're in certain film festivals and your short film wins, it could absolutely be a calling card. You just have to decide why you're making it. Now, I know a lot of people who have very smartly, in my opinion, taken, like, I've heard of people that raised $50 for a short film, and I'm like, that's a lot of freaking money for a short film. And I know people that have raised $50,000 for a short film and went, you know what? I think I could actually make a feature for $50,000, and they go out and do it. Okay, they find a way. Everybody works on the cheap, obviously. They call in favors. They do everything that they would do for a short film, but they make a feature, and that's even a better calling card if you do it well. So it just all depends on what your ultimate goal is. But as proof of concept and proof of your talent and all those things, absolutely it matters. Absolutely it matters, and people still care, and people still want to watch. And I know managers and agents watch them. Production companies look at them. They have staff, junior staff that will look through short films to try to find talent. Absolutely. It's still a very viable way of, getting to where you want to be, depending on your goal. Okay, so the person I asked the question is attending CAN and AFM this year, and what piece of advice do I have for attending those markets and other markets throughout the year? Be prepared. Do the work. Don't just go in, like, have targets. Know what you're going in for. Know who set meetings. You don't have to set a ton of them. There's certainly a ton of business that gets done in the streets, in front of the hotels, in the restaurants, all of that, walking around at the parties. Absolutely. but you really want to kind of drill down on why you're there. I've seen too many people that go to, I'm going to be in CAN in a couple weeks. It's going to be our 14th year or 11th year in a row of being the education partner of CAN. I think I've been going for 12 or 13 years, and it always amazes me how many people go in with no strategy, and then they're flailing. You know what I mean? They're flailing, and they're showing, they're trying, passing out the cards, or a hard drive, flash drive, or showing you on their phone their trailer, and it's like, you're sitting there going like, well, I'm here for a reason too. Like, I have things I'm trying to accomplish. Like, I'm trying to have meetings, and you're throwing this stuff on me. It's chaos, and you don't want to come across as chaotic. You want to come across as knowledgeable and prepared, and with a clear goal in mind. You should have almost like a log line of your goal. So when people say to you inevitably, what brings you to CAN? You have that log line of why you're here, and that matters, right? Because then people sit there and go, oh wow, okay, they got their shit together, they know what they're doing here. So that's my biggest piece of advice is, and I would say my second piece of advice is to have fun, because a lot of people come in and it's really serious and really like, make a break, and you could feel that and you could hear that. It's that sense of desperation. You don't want any of that. It's a fun environment. Everybody's there for a reason. Everybody has somebody to answer to. Everybody has something they're trying to accomplish. Just dig into it, make connections, always be, asking people what they're there for, so you make, meaningful connections. All those things matter, and they'll go a long way toward you having success. Yep. For those who can't hear, Amanda is gathering her questions and gathering her. There's a lot of questions coming in, so hang tight for 1 second. And she's going to be answering the lounge questions in a few, so just hang tight. Or asking them. Sure. Shut your mic. So the question was, do we have networking classes on Stage 32, and what's my advice for networking, since I network every day, and that's why I said treating it like a job, right? So yes, we definitely have classes on Stage 32. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. If you are interested in any of them, just write edu at Stage 32. That's the education team, and they can point you in the direction of all the free and premium stuff that we have as far as networking is concerned. We have networking for almost every individual craft, but then we also have networking for introverts. So if you're introverted, how to break out of it, how to dip your toe in, how to make it an easier process for you. We have a ton of webinars and classes in that vein. As far as I'm concerned, my whole entire thing is that I come in from a place of selflessness, and I think you need to do that with all your networking, with all your relationship building. I always say treat your online activity and your online behaviors as you would if you were in real, if you were in person with people, right? So in other words, you wouldn't walk into, let's say you were at a filmmaking networking event, you're a filmmaker and you go to this filmmaking networking event and you walk into their happy hour, they're having a happy hour, everybody's wearing name tags, and you walk into a group and they're all sitting there talking, and you come in and you go, hi, I'm Joe, and you start launching into everything that you do. Well, everybody's gonna be like, yeah, take care, Joe, we're talking over here, right? So you wouldn't do that. What you would normally do probably would be like, hey, I'm Joe, I'm from wherever, I came down here, I just wanted to meet you guys, what are you guys down here for, what's your names, everything. Like, you would ask about them, okay? No different online. I come from a place of selflessness all the time. It's I have a rule of 3. You guys have heard, if you've been around for more than 10 minutes, you probably heard me say this a million times. I've been here for the last 13 years, probably heard me say it 100 times. But my rule of 3 is simple. It's just that you ask of the other person 3 things, or 3 times you offer before you ask for anything. So I will ask people, what are they doing here? What are they working on? What made them interested in that project that they're working on? What's the ultimate goal? What are you looking to do? And usually, if you do that, what's the normal progression of that? What are you doing? What are you here for? Who are you? What are you looking to accomplish, right? So you're creating a relationship. You're building a relationship. I mean, that's what you're doing, right? So if you come from a place of selflessness and you put yourself in a position where you're showing people that you understand that they have goals and that they're here for a reason too, okay? And you lead with empathy, you're gonna win all the time. You're just gonna win all the time. You're gonna like people are gonna want to be around you. I'm spitting. People are gonna want to be around you, right? That's how excited I am about this. I'm rabid about it. People are going to want to be around you, right? So it's just lead with selflessness and lead with empathy, and you're going to do great. And have goals too, like like I said, like I have a goal of an hour a day, and it's something that's non-negotiable for me. The thing that I do with it is, people say to me, "Do you really do an hour?" Because I talk about this a lot, and I'm like, "Yeah, I really do an hour, like early in the morning, like that's what I dedicate." Now, if I can't do it, if I'm on a project, got Stage 32, launching shit all the time. There's, massive projects and everything like that. I just double up when I can. Like I double up on the weekends and things like that. So no excuses, just solutions. Mm. If that's true, if I am leading by example, then I want to be clear that it's an added effect of what I'm trying to accomplish too, right? Like I'm just going out there doing it in a way that I know works. You know what I mean? It's like, again, it's relationship. Like people say networking, sure, networking. But if you frame it like relationship building, then you understand that you're growing a relationship, and you understand that growing a relationship takes time. You're planting the seed, you're watering the seed. You know what I mean? I just had, I've told this story, but the TV show that we sold to Amblin, the guy that I asked to be the showrunner on the show, I forged a relationship with this guy in 2015. Never asked him for a thing. Never asked him for a thing. And I really wasn't even targeting him to bring him on as the showrunner. I he is a big time TV writer, so I just asked him to read the pilot with no intention. I just wanted his feedback. It was the first thing I asked the guy to do for me in 6 or 7 years. And I had read a ton of his scripts, and he had asked me for advice a million times. I never asked him for anything. We just built a relationship and a friendship, and it was great. But in that moment, I said, this is a guy I want advice from, and I built a relationship with this guy, and would you be willing to read it? And of course, at that point, he was like, absolutely, send it over. And then he came back to me and he was like, I love this, and I actually have a history with this, with the subject matter of this. I would love to hop on this thing. And I was like, holy shit, right? And that's how we sold it to Amblin. So, it's a long-term thing. You got to embrace the long game, and you got to nurture these relationships, and you got to be visible and active on Stage 32. It's not just a matter of just sending network requests. I mean, the more you're out there, sharing information, joining in people's threads, commenting on when people are sharing stuff, commenting on their threads, thanking them for posting articles and thanking them for posting valuable information and things like that. The more you're seen, and the more people are like, well, who's that? And then they look at your bio and they're like, oh wow, okay, cool, yeah, I want to connect with that person, and then I want to talk to that person. And that's how it happens. It's almost like it's almost like imperceptible how it happens. When you're doing it right, but it accumulates over time, right? It's a cumulative thing, and then all of a sudden you turn around one day and you have a network of like 1,000 people, and you could reach anybody, and you got people that are supporting you with you and your talents, and that's really all it's about, man. It's all it's about. Don't overcomplicate it. Simplify it. Well, that's what. So, Amanda, so we hit maximum capacity on this, which is incredible. When the first time I did an AMA back in 2011, I think we had like 50 people that registered. Now we have thousands that register, and I'm completely grateful for that. I'm not thrilled that people are getting shut out right now, but they'll get to watch it on demand. We'll have to figure out the kinks of this Riverside thing and make sure that we have a room that could fit everybody next time. So the question was, what makes a pitch stand out on stage 32, and how can you prepare for it? So if you're not familiar with what we do here on stage 32, we do have pitch sessions every week with executives. We also obviously have coverage and consultation and career development calls with executive where you go and you talk about your work. So what are the best practices for that? Well, they're no different here than they are anywhere else, right? So when I pitch a project, especially if I have like a 5-minute pitch, let's say, let's lean into a 5-minute pitch. Most important, I pretty much start out every pitch the same way, which is to say what the title is, whether it's a feature or a television. What's the title? What's the genre? Is it well? Usually I start. Let me back up just a little bit. This is a feature film called. It's a horror, okay. So I'm naming the what it is a feature or TV. I'm speaking to the title and I'm speaking to the genre. That is my kickoff. So everybody immediately in the room understands what they're dealing with, okay? The next thing I will do is speak to why. I will either ask a question sometimes, like if there is a hook to the story. Like, did you ever wonder, you know, what happens in the afterlife? You know, like something like that. I pulled that out of my ass. That's not very good, but you get where I'm going with it, right? If that's what this movie is about, then do you ever wonder what happens in the afterlife? Because most people would be like, yeah, you know, I'm curious what happens when we die. Yeah, of course, right? Well, this story is about that. And the reason why I wanted to write this story, and now I'm going to talk about the connection of this story to me, is something along the lines of, and I'm making this up too, although he is no longer with us. My father passed away. When my father passed away, you know, the thing that struck me is, you know, he really didn't believe in the afterlife, but I believe he's still with us. Okay? All of a sudden now, you've given the title, you've given the genre, you've given the fact whether it's a feature or television, right? So I know that. I know I've been asked this question, this philosophical question. This doesn't work for everything with a philosophical question, but if it's something that you can play into, certainly you can play into it. And that everybody's like, wow, now they're leaning in. And then I'm connecting it to me. And I'm sharing a human experience that makes everybody go, well, shit, yeah, you know, I've lost somebody close to me and you know, like I'm in, like, let's go. And then I launch into the story, right? So what you're doing is you're creating a human connection. You know, first and foremost, you're telling everybody what it is, and you'd be amazed how many people get to the end of a pitch and I go, is this a feature? Is this a comedy? You know, it's weird. Is it a comedy? It sounds like there's comedic elements, but it's drama. Is it a feature? Is it like, what is it, right? You'd be amazed how many people go through a pitch and don't do any of that. Then, you know, of course, when you're creating a human connection, you're pitching to human beings. They're not machines. And I think a lot of people forget that. And they're human beings with goals just like you. They have to like the project. They have to see a path to profitability with the project. So the more you can engage them, the more that they're going to be drawn in and the more they're going to want to read. Because what's the ultimate goal of the pitch? Is to get them to read the script, right? So the more you can make that connection and everything. Now, everything I just said should take no longer than 20 to 30 seconds. Which should leave about 4.5 minutes, like 30 seconds. You should leave about 4.5 minutes to the rest of your pitch, okay? And the rest of your pitch better be tight. And you better be focusing on the things that really, really matter. Who's your protagonist? What's the conflict? What's the inciting incident? What's the obstacles in this person's path? Within that, you could pepper in 2 or 3 other characters, okay? And their journeys and how they're gonna affect the main character and that character's journey. Are they going to be an obstacle? Are they going to be an ally? What are they going to be? Okay, and that's it. Okay, you have to not overcomplicate it. But to me, everything is about making that human connection at the beginning and making it very, very clear exactly what you're pitching, what the medium is, what the genre is. That's really how I start every pitch. And I'm happy to answer follow-ups that, you know, that question if there are more that come in. But again, simplify. Those are the basics. Bring them in. Now, if you don't have a question at the top, okay, there are other ways. You still, I would just leave out the question and say, this story is about boom, boom, boom. And the reason why it was important to me to write this story was boom, 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 into the story, okay? But if you can make that connection, all the better. Amanda's basically saying, if you can't hear her, that she wished that advice was golden, and she wishes that you could hear me pitch because I'm an incredible pitcher, which is very kind of her because I do not find it doesn't come inherently easy for me to pitch. Okay, it takes a while, but what gets me there is I write out the narrative. And I write out the narrative, and I write out the narrative, and I write out the narrative. You know, when I'm going to pitch, I write out this narrative, and then I sit there and go, I look at it and I go, what matters? Like what? And then I just start cutting it. Like that plot point really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. They're going to get the story without it. The turn matters. The all hope is lost point matters. You know, the acceleration to victory at the end matters if there is an acceleration to victory. The acceleration to the finish line matters. How it closes matters. Like, you know, those are the things that matter. The inciting incident matters, right? Those are the things that really, really matter. So once I cut that down and once I'm able to get it down, then it becomes easier for me to kind of find the flow of the pitch, and it becomes a little bit more natural to me. It's never natural. I mean, you know, I'm very nice of Amanda to say I'm great at pitching, but I think it's more that I am very good at being prepared for a pitch than I am a great pitcher. Yep. Mm-hmm. So Amanda asked about John. John Mezes is here in the room. He runs our pitch practice in the writer's room. If you're not familiar with the writer's room product, it's a membership product where we have all sorts of webcasts with access to executives every week. We have open writing assignments that you can submit to for free, usually 6 every 2 weeks. Right now we actually have 24 of them open. But John runs with Noel, who is amazing as well, runs a pitch practice every Thursday, and it is just one of the most engaging, informative, educational, uplifting environments that you could possibly be in. To listen to other people pitch in a safe, supportive environment. It's usually a 4 to 5 minute pitch, and with feedback from people, you know, from John and from Noel, and then they bring in executives, managers, agents. I've been in there to give feedback. I love doing it. It's so much fun. So if you're not in the writer's room, I mean, Amanda, maybe you could put the link in there, and whoever wants a free month. If you want a free month of the writer's room, let's just do it really quick. If you want a free month of the writer's room, we'll put it in the chat box. The link and the email, success@stage32. Just email Pat. We'll put the email address in there and just tell them I sent you over from the AMA, and they'll set you up at the writer's room, and then you can go to pitch practice with John. So there you go. Well, Ashley put it in. Ashley just put the link in there. That's the link to the free. That actually will give you the free month right there. So no worries. And if you have, Ashley, if you could just put success@stage32.com in there. This is the email address, if you look in the chat right now, that if you ever have any questions about any of our writing services or producing services, or like, you know, our development services are not just for writers. They're for producers, they're for actors, they're for filmmakers, they're for financiers. They all use our development services to get feedback on their scripts, talk to executives about career development, and so on and so forth. If you have any questions on what executive would be right for you, the matchmaking part of what we do here at Stage 32, just write success@stage32.com. And Pat, who heads up the success team, will get back to you. All you should include in that email is just a little bit about what you're writing, maybe a log line or two, and what your goals are. You know, are your goals to get a manager? Do you have a manager and you're just looking to get in front of producers or, you know, financiers or so on and so forth? Are you a producer and you're looking to get feedback on a script that was submitted to you, or your financier looking to find out if the script is viable, the project is viable? All of those things we handle. Just write success@stage32. Pat is a rock star. Write him at success@stage32. He's like the screenwriting Sherpa. He's the project Sherpa. I shouldn't say just screenwriting, because he, like I said, he works with producers, financiers, actors, filmmakers, and so on as well. So the question is, how do we vet the executives we work with on stage 32? We had a little background noise, so I'll say it one more time. How do we vet the executives we have on stage 32? It's a great question. We turn away more execs than you might imagine, not because they're just not in a position. If they're not in a position to help people, if they're not in a position to get things done, we want executives that are actually, actively looking for material, actively have access to financing or to packaging, managers and agents who are looking to expand their client roster. There are qualifications to everything that we do to assure that we're bringing in executives that can provide you with the opportunity that we try to promise within the access that we're giving you, right? So that means at that point, the onus is on you to, have a project that's awesome, write a script that's amazing, making sure that you're getting in front of the right executive, making sure you're looking at the mandates that these executives post through us, what they're looking for, what budget ranges, and so on and so forth, so that you're putting yourself in the best position to win. But that's how we do it. That's why we have the reputation in the industry that we have, over the last 13 years, 14 years. We work literally now with over 3,000 executives that are on our roster that come in and out, and if they're not on set or if they're not doing something else, they're in here looking for new material and looking to expand their rosters or option or buy material and so on and so forth. And we're incredibly proud of that. And we have some exciting announcements coming up. A little tease in something Amanda said a little while ago. But we'll be making a little bit of an announcement about the development services team in a few days. But we're just making it better and better and better. But the most important thing is that all of the executives that we bring in are not only at the top of their game, but are looking for material actively and have a mandate to go find great stuff or sign writers or so on and so forth. And with our career development calls and everything like that, what we do is we bring in the best of the best that are able to, like I said, talk to producers, talk to financiers, talk to screenwriters, talk to filmmakers about how they can best position themselves in their career to move forward to not only succeed now but to sustain a long career. So that's the real gist of the development calls, and that's why when you look at the people that are doing the development calls, they're really people that are out there in the trenches right now where we've accomplished an amazing amount in the business already. Okay. Okay. That's a lot of question. I'm going to try to truncate it. Sure. Okay. So the question was, it's a writer who has had some success with fellowships and contests, and how do you move to the next level without everything being transactional with your relationships and so on and so forth? Like, going out there with those accolades, let's say, and not trying to be broadcasty and transactional. First of all, it's a great problem to have. You know what I mean? You're having success. You're getting some accolades. The first thing, of course, is to make sure the accolades actually matter. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you win Joe's screenwriting contest and you're going out to an executive and going, I won Joe's screenwriting contest, they're going to be like, this person has no idea how this industry operates, right? There are very few legitimate and respected entities out there. We're thrilled that we're one of them, where people will listen to us if somebody has success with a contest, or we pass or gets a double recommend with us and we pass the script along, or if there's a project that has some financing attached to it or something and we try to shepherd it. People take our calls, people take our emails, people push those projects to the top. That's awesome. So that's the first part, is to make sure that it's from a respected source and that you're not kind of exposing yourself as uneducated on what matters and what doesn't matter to the executives that you're reaching out to. So that's certainly the first thing. The second thing is, like, look, everybody you're trying to approach has something to do in this business, and they all have a boss to answer to. So whether it's a development exec or whether it's a producer at a high level, producers have to answer to the financiers, development execs have to answer to the management of that company, and so on and so forth. It's everybody has somebody to answer to, right? As long as you understand that, and as long as you're sensitive to that, and as long as you treat that person as a human being, okay, you're gonna make them feel at ease. Because you have to remember, all these people that you're targeting are getting targeted literally dozens of times a day. They're getting query emails, they're getting calls, they're getting Instagram DMs, they're getting, everything. They're getting hit from every angle. And I can tell you that because I get hit from every angle probably 30, 40 times a day. And it's so I can only imagine what they're getting, right? So you got to be sensitive to that. So everything is about approach, right? Keep in touch with the people that open door. If you have an open door to somebody, keep in touch with them every once in a while and be like, hey, how you doing? Hey. And if you're reading the trades, if you're paying attention to what's happening in the business, then if you see an executive you have a relationship with already, you have an open door with, and their company or they themselves have done something cool and it's in the trades, you better get in their email box and be like, hey, I just saw this in Deadline, man. Congratulations. That's incredible. So happy for you. It couldn't happen to a nicer person if they are a nice person. If they're not, whatever. But you couldn't happen to a nicer person, and I couldn't be more excited for you. That goes a long way. They're human beings. You know what I mean? They suffer and they struggle, and they just like everybody else does, right? So keep it human. Check in with people. Okay, don't be afraid to ask for recommendations too, or for people to pass things along. If I have a meeting with somebody and they love one of my scripts and they're like, it's amazing, it's just like we can't do anything with it because it's a little out of our budget range or whatever, I'll say, do you know anybody else that might be interested in this? And if I built that relationship with them, they'll go, you know what, yeah, there are a few people I could pass this to. But you got to ask, right? You know what I mean? They're on to the next. So just remember that they're human beings. Treat them that way. Build relationships. Be kind. Be selfless. Understand what they're doing. Remember if they tell you something in a meeting, write it down and reference it the next time you talk to them in a human way and in a really, genuine way, authentic way. Authenticity goes a long way in this business because it's a tough fucking business and it's a challenge for everybody every day. So the more that you can make it human for somebody, the more they're going to feel human and not feel like they're just a cog in the machine that's being hit up all the time. Like, look at check out like all this crap, right? So that's my advice there. Okay, so I love this question. The question was, I'm a very motivated screenwriter and filmmaker, but I have a crippling fear of putting myself out there, okay? And a crippling fear of failure was the actual line, fear of failure. How would you deal with that, or how would I, what suggestions or what advice do I have? My first piece of advice is the biggest, which is, the only failure is not taking action. That's the only thing that's truly a failure. The only thing that's a failure is not taking action. So if you can embrace that as a first principle and as a baseline, that's really the only failure in life, is not doing what you want to do and not taking action, then everything else can grow from that. All right. So the second part I would say is that fear is just an irrational emotion. You think about the things in your life that you're most fearful of, and what came to pass. I mean, I guarantee you it's going to be a very small percentage of things that you were fearful of that actually, came to pass. And if they did, they probably weren't nearly at the level of what you anticipated, right? So if you can live in that little area, in that little bubble there, then it becomes about experience, okay? Everybody gets punched in the mouth. Everybody in this business and in life gets punched in the mouth. But you don't learn anything about getting punched in the mouth if you don't get punched in the mouth. You don't learn how to duck the next time or move out of the way the next time or bob and weave, okay, if you don't get punched in the mouth, right? So if you can embrace that aspect of it, okay, then you're really on a path, right? So what's the worst that could happen? You go out there and you put yourself out there and you didn't get the result you wanted. Okay. You try again, you shift course, right? Ultimately, what we're fearful of, okay, is not failure. What we're fearful of is rejection. Okay, so let's frame that. Everybody in this business gets rejected. I don't care where you are. Somewhere right now, there is an A-list actor, an A-list writer, an A-list filmmaker, an A-list producer that is sitting in a room somewhere in this freaking town being told no. Nope, don't see it. Don't see that. No, we're not going to put money into that. Nope, we're not going to cast you in that. Okay? Rejection is part of the business. Rejection is part of life. So then it becomes about how do we frame rejection? Okay? I frame rejection as a learning experience. Okay? It's not failure. It just wasn't right for that person. Okay? The script wasn't right for that person. Doesn't mean it's not going to be right for a million other people. All right? Or somebody else. All it takes is one yes. All right? I wasn't right for that role, but okay, there's plenty of others. So you see what I just did here with all of it, right? It's all framing. So now let's go back to your original question about failure. There is no failure. The only failure is not doing it, is not trying, okay? And rejection is just a learning experience. And if we could just sit there and go, our job as human beings is to put ourselves in situations, live our lives to the fullest. And while we're living our lives to the fullest, when we do run into a wall or get punched in the snout, we just learn from it. And we go, okay, all right, yeah, okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different the next time, and I'm not going to get punched in the mouth, right? That's it. That's all it is. And then all of a sudden, really what it comes down to is framing rejection as a learning experience. So if you could do all those things and treat that baseline, like I said, and just put yourself out there with what's the worst that could happen? People don't respond. I got rejected. Okay, that's one person. That's one thing I did. Off to the next. I'm not going to do that one again. I'm going to try this one. Okay, and that's it. You do that, I guarantee you, you will have so many wins happen, and all you're looking to do is stack those wins, really. Like, that worked. Okay, I'm going to do a little more of that. That worked. I'm going to do a little more of that. That worked. I'm going to do a little more of that. That's it. Okay, and that's really life in general. So get failure out of your head. Make sure you can look at fear as just an irrational emotion, and really it's just all about taking chances and living with those chances. And if you get rejected on those chances, to accept rejection, reframe it as a learning experience, and move on. You're very welcome, Amanda. So that was powerful. Thank you, and I'm very happy to. This is a set that these mental health introvert, I've talked about, my challenges with being an introvert years ago and what I did to get through it, and really these things are near and dear to my heart. Okay, people's mental health, especially in this industry, and it's another reason why, again, I don't want to just keep repeating myself and making people feel like I'm trying to get you off of X and all these other places and everything like that. But you do have to recognize, the only thing I'm asking you to do is to recognize who you're communicating with, who you're networking with, who you're surrounding yourself with, what voices you're listening to, and what is the effect it has on you. Like, when you get off there, do you feel miserable? If you do, don't put yourself in that environment again. You know what I mean? Don't keep going back. You know what I mean? You don't go swim in sewer water and go like, oh yeah, great, I'm gonna go do that again. Don't do it with your online life either. And again, treat your online life like it's a piece of your life. I hate people who go online life and offline life. It's the same fucking thing. Treat it the same way. Okay, if you're being honest to yourself and being honest with yourself, being authentic, and you're treating your brand, and everybody does have a brand. I don't care whether you think you do or you don't. You do have one based on the things you put out there and how you carry yourself out there. Okay, you're going to realize that you're going to want to cultivate that in a way that anytime you feel negative, you go, no more of that. Fuck that. That goes. Negative people, they go. People that tell you it can't be done, they go. You know what I mean? And you control your life. Control what you can control and let the rest go. Okay, yeah, Amanda's saying, if you can't hear her, that she put in the chat box my Instagram because I put up a lot of videos on these subjects. That's like the platform that I kind of choose to put videos out there because I find people are more receptive and not the lunatics that are on X and some of the other places. So if you're on Instagram, I mean, I am on X. It's RB walks into a bar. My initials RB walks into a bar, but I do a lot more on or put more videos up on Instagram having to do with mental health, having to do with business, having to do with, if I'm in a meeting, I come out of a meeting and I talk about it, try to educate everybody. So if you go to Instagram, excuse me, if you go to Instagram, you go to RB walks into a bar. So it's RB, my initials, walks into a bar, like a horse walks into a bar. Just hit the follow button and you'll get me. And I also share a lot of those videos. If you're not familiar with On Stage 32, there's a blog I've been doing on Sunday called Coffee and Content, probably for about 7 or 8 years, where I post an outside video and then I post one of my videos to try to, inspire, motivate. I look at it as inspirational, aspirational, motivational. That's usually the brand and what I try to spread. So there you go. Yep. Okay. Okay. There you go. Okay. So the question was, should you be writing micro budget or small budget movies as opposed to mid budget movies because the market has slowed down a little bit? I would argue that the market hasn't slowed down, it's accelerating. And we've had probably over the last 5 or 6 months, I think it was up over 20 spec sales. Those are things that are announced in the trade. Those are sales that are announced in the trade at a high level. We had two, I think two this week already. We had one that went to Lionsgate. That's not talking about all the options and paid options and things that are happening at a small level at smaller independents and things like that that don't really get as much press as some of these other things do. The market is accelerating on the feature film side. If you're writing feature films, now is the time to be in the mix, okay, and to be out there and to be getting access and getting in front of people and so on and so forth. So that's the first part of that. The second part is, should you be writing smaller budget or micro budget? You write to the budget you want to write to. You write the stories you want to tell. Now, here's what I would say. Okay, if you're thinking about writing your big $100 million space trilogy that's not based on IP, that's going to be a hard to sell. Okay, if you're writing, a $50 million action thing and you never sold anything before, and you could think of ways to, maybe get costs down a little bit, get the budget down a little, it's fine, but it's not imperative. Because the reality of the situation is, if somebody really, really loves the story and they can't make it at that high of a budget, they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, look, we need, instead of blowing up 5 buildings in this script, let's blow up one. Okay, instead of having 50 conversations that happen in cars, let's move some of them to one location, okay, or some scenes to one location. They're going to figure out ways to get it down, right? They're going to figure out a way to make it more cost efficient, right? That happens in this business all the freaking time. It happens in television, with prestige television. You watch some of these behind the scene things, even with like Severance and stuff like that, and they talk about how they had to kind of combine things in the script because it was too ambitious and too much. It would have taken too long to film. It would have been too expensive. Happens all the time. Everybody's gonna be cost conscious, right? So write the stories you want to write, okay? But just be aware, like, again, if you're writing like a space trilogy, I mean, I hear people say this, like, I'm writing a space trilogy and it's not based on IP and it's going to be $100 million a film. Well, good luck selling that. Show me the proof of concept for that for a first-time writer. You don't see a lot of that, right? So you got to also understand how the market works as well, and what you're, really what you're putting out there and your knowledge of how things operate. Okay, so so it's really two separate questions, but I'll answer them in the same, try to answer them in the same vein. So the questions were two writers who are selling scripts that have sequel or franchise potential. And the first question was, if I sell this script, can I keep the rights to the characters for the sequel? Good luck with that. Okay, especially if you're a first time writer or whatever, good luck with that. You better have one hell of an entertainment attorney that can battle through that. The reality of the situation is that, you're never going to see a George Lucas Star Wars type thing again where he retained the rights to all the characters and all this stuff and the toys and all that. They didn't know what they had back then, right? It's very unlikely that you're going to be able to retain those rights. Now, can you get other rights? Can you fight for, you know, I don't know, profit participation and some things if they're intending on doing something with the characters or whatever? Maybe, but again, you better have a better have a damn good entertainment attorney that's going to be able to cut through that and show precedent for other writers at your level that have gotten that. Okay, and that's just the reality of the business. The second question was writing a script that has sequel or franchise potential, and if they would be able to, if they don't write the sequel, would they be able to still get paid on it? Now that's a different story, okay? More likely than not, you're gonna get story. If you're not writing the sequel, you're gonna have, characters based on. You're probably gonna get, some sort of producing credit, whether it's an executive producer credit or associate producer credit. All those things need to be negotiated at the point of the first sale. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this. There was a script the very first script that I sold, that I got paid an option on. I had no intention of this script. I never thought of it as a sequel type script. I thought of it as a standalone. But when we got into the room, one of the first things that the head of the production company who bought the script said to me was like, "We love this script because we see like 2 or 3 sequels in it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I did it." And so when we put the option together and started putting the deal together and we started papering everything, you best believe that there was language in there that would protect me for sequels, spin-offs. This day and age, you could do things like, if they want to do podcasts, if they want to do, you might be able to protect other mediums, like, say that this deal is strictly for film, but if I decide down the road I want to do a podcast, famously, Rex Pickett, who wrote the book for Sideways, the movie he wrote the book, he didn't write the screenplay. Famously, Rex, when he made the deal with Fox to license the book, he made a deal that he could keep the rights if he ever wanted to do Sideways as a play. And they let him keep that. But ultimately, he lost the right to, Fox controlled the right. Like, there's never been a sequel to Sideways. He's written 3 more books. He would love for there to be sequels. But he can't go make the film off of those books because the characters for film are actually owned by Fox. So he can't go do that. But the way he got around it was he did a play. And, he did it on the West End, and he did it out here in Santa Monica and all that. So there are ways, okay? You just got to decide what matters and what doesn't matter. And again, you got to have a damn good entertainment attorney. Those are worth their weight in gold. Entertainment attorneys are usually, more valuable at times than even managers and agents. We do have a lot of good entertainment attorneys on Stage 32. That's what Amanda's saying. There's a ton of really good entertainment attorneys on the platform for sure. And they teach for us. Yeah, I mean, they teach for us and they offer services for us and so on and so forth. Yeah, Amanda's saying if you want referrals on entertainment attorneys or classes that they've taught on various things, suggestions, if there's things that confuse you about it, just write edu at Stage 32, edu, letter E, letter U, edu, short for education, at stage32.com, and then on the development services side, if you're looking to get access to them and so on and so forth, it's success at stage 32. Great. Okay, so the question is, will age prevent the person who asked the question from getting a manager or an agent? Is there ageism when it comes to representation? And this particular writer has published 11 books, and she's written a bunch of screenplays. And the answer is no. If you write a great script, got to remember, okay, when your script lands on somebody's desk, there's nothing that says how old you are. There's nothing that says what you look like. Okay? There is just the story. All right? And at the end of the day, these executives have one job and one job only. Okay? For reps, it's, can I sell this project, and can I work with this writer to create more material that I could take to market that can sell. That's it. Okay? And for producers and financiers and everybody else is there a path to profitability with this project? That's it. Okay, so if you simplify all that, and you keep that in mind, all right, then all these fears that go in. I'm not saying you're fearful of this. I'm saying, but it's weighing on you, and we have enough shit on our heads as artists that we don't want all this other crap weighing on our heads. So what I would say is, wipe it off, write the best script you can, write scripts that you feel people will look at and go, not only is this a great story well told and something that actors would love to play, roles that actors would love to play, but it's it's undeniable where this could be in the market, or where it could sit and how it could sit and how we could promote this thing or advertise or market this thing. That's really your only job, right? Write the best story you could write, and be honest with yourself about what the market is for it. You know what I mean? If you're writing very tiny indie films, you got to understand that that's a smaller market and a tougher lift, right? Because there's still a money aspect to raising it. There's not as many places maybe to put it. That doesn't mean that that you can't do it, or that's not what you want. I've done it a million times. I've written a bunch of these small scripts, and there's a path, but it's a different path than maybe that 10 to 15 million movie, right? So just got to be honest with yourself and real with yourself, but write the thing that you want to write, and write it the best you can. Okay, so this question is from a writer who is working with a producer who put this particular project as part of that producer's slate. And if you understand what a slate is, if you don't understand what a slate is, this producer is basically packaging a bunch of scripts that they may or may not have financing for, or some part financing, partial financing, and going out to either try to raise financing or to get some interest in one or all of the scripts or the projects within that slate. And what the person asking the question is saying is, after a year there's been no contracts, he feels like he should be out pitching it. What should he do? What should you got to look at what your deal with this person was to begin with. Okay, I have a hard and steady rule as a writer. Okay, if you're not paying me, you're not getting exclusive anything. Okay, so Amblin paid me for my TV script. The one I talked to you earlier about, paid for the option. They paid for the feature option, right? The script that just went out, has been I've been paid 4 times, I believe, for options. When I get paid for that option, the deal is they get to go run. They get to put it together. But I've also been in situations where people have read my material and said, I think I have like 2 or 3 places I'd like to take this. Okay. they're not going to give me money to take a risk on those 2 or 3 places. So what I would say there is, let's sign a deal, okay, like just a really simple deal memo that you tell me the 2 or 3 places that you're going to go. I agree to those 2 or 3 places, okay? You keep me fully in the loop of what happens at those 2 or 3 places. And if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, okay? And we move on, right? But that's a limited commitment for something that could be big. So if you didn't sign an exclusive deal with this person and it was just like he was going to run around with it, you know then you have nothing. One, you have nothing to worry about. But what I would also implore you to do is decide whether you want him still running around, because basically he's representing your work, and can he represent your work any better than you can represent it? I don't know. I don't know if he's, if he knows the project well enough. I don't know what kind of priority he's giving it within the slate of films that he is promoting or pushing around. So you don't know, how he's pushing it, and that's valuable information, right? You also got to know where he's taking it, because now here's your next thing that you have to be concerned about, right? Let's say tomorrow you get a manager that reads this and says, I love this script. I'd love to push it around. Where has it been seen? And you're like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know who's read it. I don't know what's going on. That's a problem, because the manager is not going to want to go to production companies that may have read this thing and passed on it, and be in the dark. Like, the last thing a manager wants to hear from a trusted source or a person that they go to that trusts their judgment is, oh yeah, I saw the script. Like, yeah, no, we passed on this a year ago. Okay, so you want pure transparency. I don't believe in free options. I don't believe in dollar options. I don't believe in all that bullshit. If they have clout and they have the ability to get things done, they should be able to pay you at least something for that option. And then the option should be for a year, with an option for a second year on their side, usually. You know what I mean? So, and then it could be on both sides. Like, I've had it both ways, where after a year, because a year is not that long of a period of time. So, I've had situations where after a year, nothing's gotten done. We haven't signed a deal yet, but we have a little bit of traction. Okay, and they're really putting their best foot forward. Then I might extend it a year. Okay, but I'm going to get paid for that second year too. All right, so you got to be wise, and you got to understand, and you also got to be very, very careful on who they're bringing it to, and so on and so forth, if you're going to go the free route. Okay, and you want a list of those people, so you're able to say, when you talk to other people and say especially if it got passed somewhere, you're going to want to have that list of where it got passed, so you could be transparent with the person who's taking it the next time, who might want to pay you for it, or who might want to manage you off of it. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. So the question is from Zochi, who won our short film contest. Great to have you here. And the question is, she got 2 sets of coverage, one from a person who strictly does script coverage for a living. I think you can see where my answer is going to go here. And the second is from a producer who has done things, and the person who just does screenwriting coverage for a living hated the script, thought it was awful, thought it wasn't viable. And the person that does the producing loved it and thought that the formatting could be fixed, the formatting issues could be fixed in development. Okay. I have so many problems with all of this. The first problem is, why in the actual living fuck would you go to somebody that just does screenwriting coverage for a living and isn't somebody that's actually making films and doing things for a living, okay? Or is actually in the business doing things. I don't get that at all. This is what we talked about earlier about transparency, okay? You need to know who's reading your stuff and why. You want to go to the highest level you can go to, okay? And you want to get access to people that do it at a high level, okay? So that's the first thing. I don't give any credence to his opinion. But the second part of that is, of course, that it's one person's opinion, okay? You're going to get rejected. You're going to get people that aren't going to connect to your story. You're going to get people that don't like those characters. You're going to get people that got up this morning and spilled coffee all over their shirt and decided that the world sucks and your script is hard, and then they read your script and your script's horrible. And then the dog shit on the floor. So they feel, you don't know, okay? That's why you want to go to more professional people. Now, your producer friend, obviously, if this is somebody that is making films and has done it, it's still one person's opinion, but at least it's somebody that's doing it at a high level, that has the knowledge and probably has more of a knowledge of, it's not just the knowledge of the script and the content and what's in it, but it's a knowledge, he probably has a framework, because when I read a script, I read it from the story, but I also read it from the business. Like, where can we make something of this? Can we be profitable? Your producer friend, I'm sure, read your script with two different brains. One was the story and one was the market, okay? So if he saw something there, okay, you're on to something. The thing I completely disagree with is we'll fix the formatting and development. Okay, if you have formatting problems in that script, fix the freaking formatting problems. How hard is that to fix before people start reading it? Because when I read a script with formatting problems, it takes me completely out of the story. So why do I want to read a script with formatting problems? Like, that's just another thing that I'm going to have to deal with, okay? So, right, we'll fix it in post. I just saw that pop up. That's exactly right. We don't want to fix anything in post. We want to do it right the first time as much as we can, right? These are things that are in our control that we have to control, all right? So I would just say to you, moving forward, one, screw the freaking guy that just does coverage. Two, stop going to people that just do coverage and go to people that can actually get your movie made or that, actually are doing things right now. Three, fix the formatting. You know what I mean? So that you give yourself the best shot. You got to remember, man, you're talking about people that have dozens upon dozens upon dozens of scripts on their desk, okay? And they go, page one, and it's a shit of formatting. They go, next. Happens all the time. Because why am I going to read, my impression, if I crack open that script and the formatting's all over the place, the odds of the story being there or the writing being there are probably nil, okay? Because this person didn't take the time to actually learn how to format a script. That matters, okay? So don't put it in, don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Oh, okay. So she just said, not a formatting thing. Oh, okay. Well, we'll cut that video at that point so that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. But not formatting, but some story issues. Same thing. Fix the freaking story issues. Why do you want to give a bad draft in? Why do you want people to go, right? Maybe that's why the high-level reader didn't like it, because there were story issues, right? Fix it. Fix it. Don't wait to fix it. Fix it. Make it the best it could be. How many freaking scripts get made a year, right? You want to be in the top 1%. You want to be in the top 1%. And, anything that takes you away from that is an unforced error. And why? Why? Control what you can control. Look, man, here's what I would do, okay? I've talked about this a million times, okay? I get asked this question probably 5 times a week. Easy. Some version of this question. How do I go about getting coverage when, I've had success and all this other stuff? It has never changed, okay? With every script, it doesn't matter. This new one that I'm breaking ground on right now, it'll be the same thing. When I get done with the first draft, and keep in mind that my first drafts are not vomit drafts, they're not 195 pages. I try to make my first draft as tight as humanly possible, so I do a lot of the legwork before I write fade in and so on and so forth. So I usually feel pretty good about that first draft. If I really don't feel great about it, then it'll be on then I will do the first rewrite, the first pass of the rewrite, but that'll be it. At that point, when I feel good enough about that, what I do is I get coverage from 3 people. Okay? Why 3? It's very, very simple. Okay? Everybody, I go to, by the way, 3 high level people, not 3, I don't know who they are. Their initials are Jay-Z and all this other stuff. It's 3 high level people. Okay? Why do I do that? Because I get the feedback from one. If I get the feedback and I get a note from one, I take a look at that note. Okay, and I go, could it be better? Maybe I'll take a look at that. If I get a note from 2 people, then I know I have a little bit of a problem. Okay, if 2 people recognize the flaw, okay, I need to go in and tighten that shit up. Okay, if all 3 people see a problem, or if all 3 people have the same note somewhere along the way, man, I got a major problem, and I want to know that. Okay, I want to know that immediately. Okay, because then my next step is going to be, I'm going to tighten the screws, tighten the screws, tighten the screws, and then I'm going to bring it to the people that, my manager friends and people at a high level that I trust. I don't want to give them shit. I don't want to have any room for error, right? I want to be able to tighten that thing as solid as can be. And by getting those 3 opinions, if I have the same opinion from 3 people, then it's just not a random thought like, oh, I don't like the fact that the dog's a German Shepherd and not as, like, it should be a Saint Bernard. No. Okay, that's one person's opinion, right? Or, the story takes place in New York, you should make it in Texas, because I grew up there and it's a great little town. No, okay? Structure problems, story problems, plot problems, arc problems, dialogue problems. Your act 2 is, your fun and games act is, I hate to save the cat, but your fun and games act is, not fun at all. Like, that kind of shit. That's what I want to know, right? And then you go fix it, and then you get it out there, right, into the world. So that's why I do it that way. If Sochi gets an Oscar and she doesn't thank me from the stage, first of all, I should be her date. Second of all, if I'm not being thanked, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I'm missing the Met game. What are we doing? Just kidding. No. Let's keep going. I'm enjoying this. Can you? I missed the beginning of the question. Can you ask that one more time? Okay. Yep. Excellent. Oh, excellent. Florin is a composer who just scored a film. Congratulations. And he's going to be at CAN, which is great. How does he get more work? How does he find connections through Stage 32, in the post-production world? Certainly the post-production lounge. Certainly, what a lot of people do is they hover in these lounges, but they don't contribute. So you want to be introducing yourself every Introduce Yourself weekend. If you're not familiar with that, every 3rd weekend of the month we do sort of an open house networking event. We've been doing it since the first Thursday that we first 3rd Thursday of the month since we launched way back in 2011, and we've had it every month since. And basically, you come in and you introduce yourself. You talk about what you've done, where you're at. You get to actually sort of vomit about yourself, but also try to engage with other people, to talk to them. What are your wants? What are your needs? What are your goals? And what a lot of people do is they come in and they make their post and then they go away. They don't contribute to other people's posts, and that's a massive mistake, because that's how you meet people and that's how you send those network requests that could change things. So that's one way to go about it, is to make sure that you're really involved in those Introduce Yourself weekends. Be involved in the post-production lounge. Start conversations in there about challenges you might have had along the way, or questions you might have, so that you meet people that are in that field and that will be engaging with you and getting to get to know you. That's another way. And then, of course, we have massive search functionality within our networking areas within Stage 32, where you could search for people in that field and connect with them. So those are a few ways that you can get it done. Hmm. Yeah, if people are listening, Amanda's putting the CAN roll call. So if you're going to CAN, you'll be able to click on that link or copy that link, and you'll see everything on the blog about what we're doing and what's going on. We haven't announced everything yet, but if you keep watching the blog, you'll get to see, like I mentioned earlier, this is our 11th year, I believe, being the education partner of the Cannes Film Festival and the Marché. And we are going to be expanding all of our offerings this year to include our Stage 32 certification, which we're really proud of for producers, and with all the film commissions that we work with. And we're also going to be having our Villa Party, which is always a blast, and a bunch of other events as well. So, stay tuned for more on that. Wait, say that, it started again? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so George is in the UK. He's a screenwriter. He's trying to, you know, do what every other screenwriter is doing, he's trying to get sold and recognized and representation and so on and so forth. Should he be only targeting in the UK, or should he be looking at the US? Again, I can't say this enough. I'll keep saying it until, I leave, but or I'm in the ground. But if you're not looking at this business as the world, you are cheating yourself. Okay, this is not Hollywood anymore. Okay, it hasn't been for a long time. This is the film industry, and the film industry is global, and the global acceptance of the film industry has never been higher. Think about, if you will, when you turn on Netflix now, as opposed to when you turned on Netflix 5, 6, 7 years ago. How much international shit do you see on Netflix compared to 5 or 6 years ago? A ton, okay? And it's only growing. Netflix is opening studios in Mexico, all right? They opened them in Italy a couple of years ago. Where do you think that content's going to live? It's not just going to live in Italy. It's not just going to live in Mexico. It's going to live in America, okay? And there's an acceptance to that wasn't there maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I implore you, okay, to think globally and to target things. I saw somebody earlier. Let me put a button on this. Target global, okay? No connection's a bad connection. If you're trying to get in front of executives and you're in the UK, yes, US executives. They could be executives like we bring in executives from India, South Africa. Obviously you want to tailor it to your stories and everything like that and where it is and everything, but man, expand your horizons, all right? Because the world is wide open. And now I want to comment on one other thing. I saw it in the chat earlier. I meant to comment on it. Somebody said, does that mean I should be writing my scripts in other languages? No, not at all. Okay, the idea is that filmmaking can happen anywhere, all right? Now, there are things with certain incentives where, okay, I'll use an example again from the script I sold a bunch of times. Part of it takes place in a casino in Las Vegas. We've had many conversations of, can that casino be in like Macau, so we could take advantage of tax incentives? Yeah, we can work around that. Or can we shoot it in Macau and make it look like a Las Vegas casino? Sure, we could do that. Whatever gets it done, all right? And if there's an opportunity there, hell yeah, let's go do it, right? So it's more about being open-minded, more about getting the material out there. Remember, okay, the most important part of what you're doing is the story. Universal themes can play in any environment, all right? That's just the way it is. So if they love it, there could be a conversation about moving locations or doing whatever, and how do we do it and everything like that. But don't worry about that. Just write the friggin' best script you can write, and let everything else fall into place off of that. All right. Wow. Okay. Well, that's an exciting one. So it wasn't a question. It was a thank you from somebody that took one of our Stage 32 certification master classes and graduated, got certified, and has landed a job off of being certified through Stage 32 on The Mayor of Kingstown, which is a Paramount show and Taylor Sheridan show, and that's pretty incredible. That's really, really cool. If you're not familiar with Stage 32 certification, this is my baby, one of my babies anyway. We launched it about a year and a half ago. If you go into the top menu bar on Stage 32, you'll see a tab that says certification, and you'll see all that we offer through there and all you can get certified in. And the whole idea behind certification was Stage 32 certification is that all these film commissions that we talked about earlier, who have these incentives and rebates across the world, and as these things have expanded, there are so many countries and states and cities offering incentives, but what they don't have is the infrastructure, the crews to support the incentives. They need more crew, production accountants, producers, line producers, script supervisors, so on and so forth. So what we've done is we launched Stage 32 certification about a year ago. We have about 40 film commissions now that are paying us to train people in their areas in support so that they get certified in support of their rebates and incentives. So when you go to, let's say, Ireland, and you're like, I want to shoot here, what are your crews like? They have a list of people certified through Stage 32 that you could hire, and this way it doesn't cut into your incentives, the incentive dollars that you're being allotted, which is pretty awesome. And then of course anyone can go, not just the commission's paying us, and we actually just signed Bloomberg Media a few months ago. They're paying us. They're the first media company that's paying us to train their staff and so on and so forth. But you as an individual can go get certified and be put into a global database that is accessible by film commissions, studios, streamers, producers, independent production companies, so on and so forth, that can look and see who's certified that could support their projects, work for their projects, and like I said, in the case of commissions, support their rebates. So couldn't be more thrilled to hear that somebody graduated through it and now is working on Mayor of Kingstown. That's a big feather in everybody's cap for that works on Stage 32 certification, and certainly for her as well. That's amazing. I just want to jump in really quick. There was a question I saw jump up here that I definitely want to answer. That was, why should I pay for a Stage 32 pitch session when I could just call production companies? I challenge you to get on a call with a production company right now and give them a call and get anywhere with that. They don't know you. They don't know your work. They don't usually take unsolicited phone calls, okay? They have enough to deal with. They are dealing with, people that are getting to them through trusted sources, through direct access, and so on and so forth. And here's a bigger point of this, and I'm not trying to embarrass or call out or do anything. Okay, I just it's an important part of the journey you're going to take in this business as a writer, a filmmaker, a producer, an actor. It doesn't cinematographer, a composer. It doesn't matter. Okay, when you ask questions like that, okay, without educating yourself, and this is why when somebody said earlier, what are the three things, and I said networking, access, and education are the three things that you should be thinking about every single day, and why. Okay, by the way, it should be the networking, education before the access. Okay, you need to network, build your relationships, and then the education is educating yourself on how the business operates. Okay, because when you ask a question like that, you're exposing the fact that you don't know how the business operates, and that will put you at a disadvantage in conversations, right? I have a saying that anyone that's been in this business for more than 5 minutes can identify somebody that's been in the business for less than 5 minutes within 5 seconds. Okay? Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody is, this is your first day, the first webinar you've ever been on, you're looking to break in. More power to you for being here. You have a competitive advantage over people that are not here and are not getting this information and not being educated on all the things that we've talked about for the last 2 hours. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, you need to learn the business of the business. Okay, you need to understand, if you want to be a screenwriter, you need to understand the business of screenwriting. You need to know the etiquette of screenwriting. Okay, nobody's calling up a production. They don't know you. They don't know if you're a good writer. You're not going to walk into anybody. I mean, I get 30 people a week at least that say to me, can you read my script? They're not even connected to me. I've never met them. What's the expectation? We're going to spend 2 hours reading your script when I don't even know if you can write, and you've never built a relationship with me. And I have other things to do, and I have other people that have sent me scripts that are trusted sources, and people that are friends that have asked me to do them a favor, or whatever, or things that I'm producing that I need to read and everything like that. That's why relationships matter. So relationships and understanding, constantly educating yourself on how the business operates, so important. Okay, because if you just go to the access point, people are going to be able to sniff that out in 2 seconds. They're going to be like, now that like this, they're obviously green. They don't know. Okay, so learn the business, learn the etiquette, learn how things operate. Okay, you're not going to just call a production company and get through. You're not calling Netflix and being like, hey, I got the next great idea. People do it every day. I know that for a fact, by the way. But clearly they're like, yeah, take it easy. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I said that, but I'll make it clear again. So, when productions go, let's use the Ireland example. So when productions go to, like, let's say Ireland, and they say, okay, we want to film here, we want to bring our show here, we want to bring our movie here, we want to bring our, whatever here, our production here. What they get access to through those film commissions is in our database. So it's a database of the line producers, the production accountants, the script supervisors, the craft services people, all that have gone through certification. They get access to that, so that they access to that global database, so that they can hire people through hire people that have been certified through Stage 32 in that database. So yeah, that's the big piece of it. Is the idea is that we don't want to just certify people, we want to get them to work, and we want to get them to stay working. Sure. Sure. All right, so if you couldn't hear that, Amanda's going to drop off for 2 seconds. She's going to come back in so you can see her on the screen. and we're going to do rapid fire. So this is what we usually do at the end of every AMA is you can just ask any question you want to ask. We're going to try to answer them as quickly as humanly possible. We bang out as many as we can in a few minutes, and it's a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. And clearly, like I said, I tried to answer as many questions as I could today. I know there are a lot. I mean, I've been looking at the chat, and I mean, I was trying to keep up with it, but you can't keep up with it when you're answering the questions and everything. But I know there's a lot there, and then I saw a couple of notes that there are a ton inside the platform and everything like that. Look, I'm on the platform all the time. You're going to see me everywhere. I think that there is that thread. I will try to hop into there and answer some of the unanswered questions if I can. But did the best we could here today and answered as many as we could in 2.5 hours, and we'll do it again. And I'm always around. So
Awesome. Can you hear me, RB?
we can hear you. We can't see you. We're supposed to see you.
I wasn't planning on being on screen. Do you want
That's
me?
all right. No,
Yeah.
you don't have to. I just didn't know what you were doing. Now,
Um,
can everybody hear Amanda now? Okay,
Can
Suzanne's
you guys hear
saying,
me? Testing, testing. Yes.
okay,
Okay.
everybody says yes. All right, good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good.
All right,
All
good.
right, guys. So now that I'm in the room with RB, we'll get the audio fixed for next time that we do this. But what I'd love to do, thank you guys so much for being here. What I'd love to do, and if you guys could type in, obviously RB spent a couple of hours, we're glad to have him. If you guys could type in just a thank you for RB, that would be amazing. Or some takeaways that you enjoyed today. What I would love to do is I love doing rapid fire questions for RB. So put any questions that you have into the chat box. I always love stumping him at the end of him talking for 2 hours straight. So any questions that you have, type them into the chat box. I always love just, throwing them at him at the end here, just changing his brain here at the end of the AMA. Let's just throw some rapid fire questions. Anything and everything is on the table. Well, not everything, but let's just throw some rapid fire.
I appreciate all the
This is
kind
awesome.
notes and everything. I'm trying to keep up with all of it, but thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, it means a lot. It does. And, I'm always happy to do these, and I love doing them, and I love helping where I can. And hopefully there were some great takeaways.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody from all over the world, everybody's time zones. Appreciate everybody staying up.
I just, I saw a couple of questions fly by. A half hour sci-fi is marketable, of course. Anything is open. Like, I just saw that. I know that's not really a rapid fire question, but I just wanted to answer it.
All right.
What's the offer range for a first-time screenwriter? It just depends on the script. It depends on the budget. It depends on a bunch of different things. So, yeah, best film markets, CAN, AFM. No, I can't read your script. We just talked about that. Go ahead.
What's your favorite style of dance?
My favorite style of dance.
Sebastian.
The Macarena. No, that's just fun. Is that even a thing? I don't know.
Will you do the Macarena for everybody?
Is that the Macarena? Not the Macarena. The Bossa Nova. The
Can you-
dance of love. That's what I meant to say. No, I can't do the Macarena. I don't even do it at Italian weddings.
What's one thing every creative should be doing? This isn't rapid fire. Come
Well,
on,
throw it out anyway.
What's one thing every creative should be doing right now to move their career forward this year?
Networking.
Uh,
Self-educating. I'll give you two.
All right, I gotta pull up rapid fire. Come on, guys. You guys aren't very good at rapid fire here. What's your favorite varietal of wine?
Barolo, Italian Barolo. But I'm also partial, of course, to all the big bold reds, including Bordeaux and Cabernet.
All right, I'm pulling up rapid fire questions. All right, what's your favorite hobby?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. Doing this. Helping people.
What's the last thing you cooked?
The last thing I cooked was what the hell was the last thing I cooked? I cooked it was really good. It was like a maple chicken, really, really good. It was like a maple chicken cumin thing. It was really, really good. But I love cooking. Yes, I saw. Do I like to cook? I love cooking. That's actually my favorite hobby is cooking. Yes.
What's your favorite part of Italy?
Really tough. I mean, so many, but I would say I love Rome because I love cities, and but there's so many, so many. That's like picking. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Are you good at karaoke?
With the right song.
What's the song?
Well, we did Wonderwall last year in Cannes. That went over really, really well. I know you wouldn't tell from this voice, but I did used to sing in a heavy metal band.
What's the name of the band?
Paramore, not the Paramore that you're thinking. It was before, yeah, not that.
Where are you flying next?
Cannes.
What's the last thing you ate?
Uh, Actually, I drank some bone broth this morning. That's really exciting.
All-time favorite movie?
Impossible. I mean, Goodfellas, Godfather, those types.
What do you like to do in your spare time?
Um, right now, watch the Mets, even though Laurie Ashburn ruined the game for me.
Oh no, Lori. Wet or dry Pinot Noir?
Don't freaking put it in there because I'm watching later. Dry or wet Pinot Noir?
Yeah.
Dry.
Favorite Apple Plus show so far? Ooh.
That's definitely Severance. I do have a partial. My heart is also with For All Mankind because my showrunner is the one of the top dogs on that show, and I do really like the show a lot.
Did you divide your reds and whites in your wine fridges?
Well, I don't have a ton of whites because I'm not a big white guy, but you best believe that they're not touching my reds.
If you could be reborn as anything you wanted to be in your next life, what would it be?
My dog.
Do you speak Italian?
Only the good words.
What's your go-to vice?
Uh, Wine, bourbon, the occasional edible, the occasional microdosing of a psychedelic. I don't know.
What's a song that will make you stop what you're doing?
Oh man. Uh, I don't know. There's so many. I don't know. I don't know why this song popped into my head, but Back in Black by AC/DC. I don't know why that just, I don't even know where that came from. I probably heard it this morning somewhere on the way in or something.
I love this. Maureen says we should have a Stage 32 karaoke night. I totally agree.
Why not?
Absolutely. Get everybody together on Zoom for sure.
I'll open up some wine for that.
Absolutely. Are you New Yorker originally?
Yes. Hard to tell, right? Actually, originally Tennessee. I kind of lost that accent. No, yeah, of course, New York.
Let's see. What's your mantra?
Oh man, I have so many. So I have a big three: live in the moment, never surrender, solution to every problem.
Favorite director?
Real tough, man. God, I mean, Scorsese, the Coens, so many. My God, so many. Orson Welles. I mean, for the short period.
Binging any shows right now?
Just got done with Severance. I am planning. I haven't really had time to be perfectly honest with you. I do have to see Industry season 3. I watched 2 a while ago, and I got to get caught up on that at some point.
Favorite dessert?
Fuck. Not a big dessert guy. Tricolor Italian rainbow cookies.
I think you nailed it. Favorite book?
Also impossible, man. I mean, so impossible. Big reader, so that's impossible. I'm gonna punt on that one. Too many.
Favorite musical instrument?
I played guitar for a while. Yeah, I like the guitar. I mean, drums.
Do you watch anime?
No, not much. Not much. Not that I have anything against it. It's just
Would you write an episode of Black Mirror?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would for sure. I got kind of that fucked up mind.
I'm curious. How many hours do you sleep?
Not many. Not many.
Kind of figured. All
Not
right.
many.
Well, I think that's it, RV. Well, I think on behalf of all of us here in the Stage 32 community, thank you so much for your time today. I know you've been all over the world and traveling like crazy. We're tired watching you on your Instagram. It's hard to keep up with you. Where in the world is RB? But as always, thank you so much for keeping us up to date, on what's going on in the industry. Thanks for keeping us motivated. Thanks for sharing all of your insights with the community, and to everybody in the community, thanks for taking your time to be here with us today. And as we mentioned earlier, this will be available in the Stage 32 Education Library. So we'll send out a link where you can pick that up and add it into your education library. So just give us about 24 to 48 hours to be able to process the recording, so we can get it into the education library. But RB, any parting words for everybody's here?
No, I'm just grateful to everybody for being here and for bringing such great questions and all the enthusiasm. Man, to show you Mike for a minute, man. It's like I feel like I'm on a plane. Bringing all the great questions and all the enthusiasm, that means the world to me because I love doing this, and it's always easier to do it when everybody's so inquisitive and brings such great questions. And like I said, brings all this energy. What I would just implore you guys is to, you guys, we're here to have some fun and to learn and everything like that. Just remember that this is a learning process at all times. Read the trades, stay on top of what's happening in the platform. Make sure you're contributing to conversations, starting conversations, be visible, be active. All these things matter. I always say that nothing good happens. You can't be discovered in the shadows. You got to be out there, putting yourself out there. Again, I said the big three, right? Networking, education, not only reading the trades and all that stuff and following what's going on the platform with the business and my posts and things like that, but self-educating, learning about the business, always being in a constant state of curiosity, learning about other professions besides yours. If you're a writer, you want to learn about producing. You want to know it all. If you're an actor, you want to know about filmmaking. You want to understand everybody that you're going to work with. Keep educating. And then the third piece, of course, is access. Getting in front of the right people, making sure that you're investing in the right things, putting your work in the right places, getting your vision and your creativity and your art out there into the right places. That's the triple crown of success in this industry. And if you do those things, I promise you're gonna have more bad days than good. And that's the goal, is to win every day. Go out with a strategy, go out with a goal, win that day, and then go win the next one. If you micro goals towards the macro goal, right? You do those things, you're gonna be successful in this business. So that's what I want to leave you with today. And loved being here, loved having you guys, and like I said, bring all this energy, and we'll do it again. This time, I promise you, we'll do it in a shorter time frame than we did from the last one. I think it's been 6 months. We'll try to do one in a couple of months. And certainly, just one last thing, I will be putting up videos at CAN, posting things from CAN. We will put them on Stage 32 under Coffee and Content. They will be on Instagram under RB Walks Into a Bar. So please do follow, because I'm going to be talking about what's happening at the market, what's selling, what am I hearing, what are the trends, what are the people internationally saying, what are the people in the US saying, what's the feel, what's going on with distribution models, because that friggin' the dust is in the air, what's going on with the theatrical thing and the promise of theatrical, all that. All right, so there's going to be a lot of information out there, and hopefully you'll take advantage of it and learn something else in between these sessions from me. All right, so that's it. Much love to all of you. Thank you.